All right, guys. So thank you for joining today. We are going to be talking about basically the prevalence of different types of buyers in the equation, right? So what does that mean and how do I bring that to top of mind authority when we're talking about real estate in general? So first off, let's talk about what type of buyers there are in the equation. So there's first-time buyers, right? People that are coming into the market, never owned a home before, but maybe need that opportunity of purchasing a house to get out of a rental situation. And then there are those repeat buyers, those people that have maybe downgraded, upgraded, empty nesters. Maybe they got a new promotion, maybe they got married, maybe they had more kids. Okay. And then there's the caliber of the additional sets of opportunities, right? So, in a traditional sense, most buyers will purchase at least three houses during their lifetime. Now, of those three houses, it traditionally is the opportunity that they buy their initial starter home, maybe an upgrade home, and then maybe they're going to downgrade after their kids move out of the home. But the question is, how could we possibly bring in some additional opportunities there in the equation? So, how could we bring in more potentials for purchase on the buyer side? Well, one of those tools is investment or wealth creation for our clientele, providing value to them throughout their entire real estate career that you have, right? How could you do that repeat business? Now, one of the biggest methods able to do that is to bring up the opportunity of using tools and resources. So, one of those tools and resources that I really like is Bigger Pockets. So, Bigger Pockets is something I think you should be listening to anyways, because you are real estate professionals, and this is something that will add value to your real estate profession by giving you tools and resources, things with their podcast and with their information on how to be successful in the real estate industry, but also taking it one step further to create wealth creation by using the tools that are offered by the Bigger Pockets premium program. Now, keep in mind, a lot of the stuff that I'm going to be going over, unlike normal, will be a cost. There is a cost involved in subscribing to the Bigger Pockets tool set. But what it allows you to do is find buyers by creating new wealth. Now, this is a value add in a lot of different ways. So, the first value add that it's going to bring is it's going to allow you to create value and wealth for your clients, meaning that that first time home buyer comes into the equation, gets responsible with their living, their profession, starts to make more money. Well, they could take that money and move it into other avenues, or they could take that money and move it into real estate. And that's what we're going to be talking about, is how to create investors out of your pool of buyers that you've already sold maybe in the past or that you're currently working with. Now, the next category is everybody is a real estate guru, right? Think about this. You talk to people all the time, but everybody is a real estate guru. Everybody knows something about real estate, right? You go out to a barbecue on the summer timeline and people are going to talk about real estate. They always tell, especially realtors, what's going on in real estate. Like, oh, I hear the market's great, or oh, I hear the market's horrible, or oh, it's a seller's market, or it's a buyer's market, right? People are always real estate gurus, right up until that moment that they stopped selling real estate or they haven't gotten purchasing other real estate. This is kind of like a stock market. It's always comical how many people have stock advice, but how many people don't invest in stock themselves. And that is where we become our guides and the guides to kind of get them through that next step and next process. So, how does that come into play? Well, think about it this way. Can you take your money and stick it in the stock market? Yes. You can make a lot of money in the stock market, and you can lose a lot of money in the stock market too. The beautiful thing about real estate is it is kind of a steady beast in the respect of investment, especially in El Paso with our pretty insulated market. Now, mind you, 2020, 2021, probably not to fall in this category, but traditionally we see a 3% appreciation year over year in value increase. Plus, with equity purchase down, you probably are seeing a average return of just equity anywhere from 5 to 7%, not including what you're receiving in income coming into the equation. So these are great value adds when you're talking to a person that is thinking about putting their money in the stock market that's going to see an average of 6 to 7%. If you could provide 6 to 7% just in equity, not in mentioning what you're actually adding in rental value. Okay. Now, like I said, you have to cultivate not basically not deter, right? A lot of times we get in the habit of saying to people like, be careful or watch out. Well, those are good terms when you're trying to advise a person, but you also have to understand that those somewhat deter and may take them away from the opportunities that you're affording yourself as a real estate professional. So you have to ask yourself, how can I cultivate these thought processes, right? Remember, I talked about it a minute ago. They're gurus. So how do we make them gurus that are actually going to create net wealth creation, right? How do we give that net wealth creation whilst at the same time not allowing them to go out on their own and make mistakes, but allowing us to guide them through so they don't make mistakes? Now, the way that we do that is we have to show them what the value is, right? And that's kind of what I want to go over today. So if you give me a second, let me throw this back into just a share session. So what we're going to be talking about today is basically what the market looks like when we're using BiggerPockets. So BiggerPockets is a great avenue for just data, right, to share information. So let me bring this on screen. And I'm going to share Chrome tab here. All right, so here is the BiggerPockets podcast. Now, the BiggerPockets podcast basically allows us to, let me share my screen, yes. Okay, so it allows us to show data and be able to learn about property investment, property opportunities, you name it. So there's great stuff in their forums, in their education. There's a great El Paso forum that talks a lot about El Paso real estate. Lots of people are already subscribing to this. And then you have education. Now, I'm going to actually be focusing on the tools section today because I think this is a great place for us to be able to see opportunities, okay? So one thing I want to mention, this is a new feature that Gates came out. It's a new feature called Analyze a Property. This allows you to kind of take the market data out there of rentals and what they're renting for, and allows you to analyze what that rent rate should be based on what other things are renting for. And I'll show you that a little bit further and when we get down to the information. So the first calculator is going to be a fix and flip calculator. This is a great opportunity for those people that want to get into the market of flipping properties. Okay. The next one is going to be the rental property calculator. That's the one we're going to be focusing on today and going over as far as informational basis, but we'll get back to it in a second. The next one is a BRRRR calculator. Okay. Buy, rehab, rent, repeat. Okay. Or refinance, repeat. So buy, rent, or buy, rehab, rent, refinance, repeat. BRRRR strategy. This is a great place to make money and to get into a property with an infinite return on cash because you've pulled all your cash that you put in back out. Therefore, you're making infinite return. The stock market will never have infinite return, right? Next one is a wholesaling calculator, a rehab estimator, a mortgage payment calculator, and then a 70% rule. Great tools, great resources. We're going to be focusing today on the rental property calculator because I think this is one that's going to give us some opportunities, okay? So I'm going to pull this calculator up and I'm going to walk through just some basic information. So I'm going to call this property 123 Test Street, okay? I'm going to give it in El Paso and Texas, no, not Utah. 79912. Okay, so I have a property. I can add in some additional details like bedrooms, baths, square footage, year built, so on and so forth. And then I go into the purchase price. So let's say that I'm going to buy this property for about $150,000. Okay, my purchasing close cost is going to be approximately 3%. So I'm just going to put $4,500. I can also break this down into some individual costs as well. So I can things like points and origination cost, hazard cost, and so on and so forth. I will be rehabbing this property, so I want to find out what it's going to be worth afterwards. Okay, so I'm going to say it's going to be worth about $185,000. My repair costs are going to cost me about $10,000. Okay, and keep in mind, guys, I'm flying through this, but a lot of this breaks down to, you can get into a lot more details. As you can tell, you can even add things like photographs and so on and so forth. I can also show property value growth. I've showed a property value growth of 2% here. I'm going to push that up to 3 just because I talked to you about that a moment ago. In El Paso, our average growth is about 3%. Now, keep in mind, last year and this year, we're seeing about 13 to 15% property growth. So that would obviously change this dynamic quite a bit. I can say if it's going to be a cash purchase or if they're going to be a loan. Now, this case, I'm going to do an 80% loan. I'm going to operate at about 5% money. That's about going rate right now. I'm not going to charge any points. I can, but I'm not. I'm going to put a 30-year term in here just for purposes of what I'm trying to get accomplished. Now, here's where that gross monthly income comes into play. Now, remember, I showed you that estimator and that aggregator for information. I can click it here before I go in and actually get some information. Now, I don't have a property, so it's going to bring up note that I don't have an address. But if you had an address, once you click on that Get Rental Estimates, it's going to bring you into another screen that allows you to search the area, the bed, bath, and square footage, and see what other properties are renting for. Because of the influx of property management softwares, this has allowed us to be able to get a lot of data to aggregate to find out what a common rent rate will actually be. So basically, I'm going to type in just a simple number here. I think this property is going to rent for about $1,250 a month. I can break it down on what type of income, and I can also operate into rental income growth. I'm going to grow the rental income at about the same rate, so I'm going to grow it at 3%. Now, the next step is property taxes. So this particular property is going to be about a 3% annual property tax, and I'm going to estimate $600 in insurance. Repairs and maintenance. So general rule of thumb is repairs and maintenance is going to run you about 5%. Vacancy currently operating is about 3.5%. Now, this can go as high as 7% depending on what type of market you're dealing with. I'm going to operate it at 3.5%. Capital expenditures, this is like putting money away for the roof, putting money away for the broken air conditioner, putting money away for any of those things that may happen. I'm going to put that at 2%, not a big number, but there in point. Property management. Now, this is one of those calibers. Are they going to be self-managing? Are they not going to be self-managing? And I'll show you why that's such a big deal in a second. But I'm going to put 10% here. No electricity, no gas. They're not paying for any of those things. So why are you not letting me finish here? Give me a second. I don't know why it's not letting me finish. I'm missing one of my numbers here. I don't know which one I'm missing. Shoot. I love technology. It never works whenever you're trying to accomplish something. Making sure I didn't miss anything. No. Expenses, yes, that's all right. All right, well, for some reason, something's missing here. My purchase, for some reason, missing some information there. I apologize, guys. Normally, this doesn't work like this. Purchase price. All right. Make sure I didn't miss something here. Purchase closing costs, switch to a single figure. Oh, sorry. Because I pressed that little button, that's why it wasn't letting me go. Sorry about that, guys. All right, so we're going to take ourselves into a factor and a actual report about 123 Test Street, El Paso, Texas 79912. My cash flow on this property is actually, in this case, a negative cash flow. So that would normally say that's a bad thing, but we're going to show why that's not such a bad thing, okay? And that's going to be this number right here. So a 5-year annualized return. Now, I mentioned to you guys, think about it this way. If you went into the marketplace and took your money and threw it into the stock market, your average return is going to be between 6 and 7%. This is a standard ETF market kind of average of an S&P ETF. So to show you kind of an index fund of the entire basis, about 6 to 7%. Sometimes you can get it as high as 9 if you just leave it regular maintained. In this case, if we just invested in this property, put some cash out there, laid out some cash opportunity, this is an 18.5% 5-year annualized return. Now that means that over every year for the past 5, we've seen 18% return on money. That is pretty massively intent in the fact that 44,500 cash outlay, if I stuck it in the stock market, is going to see 5 to 6%. Whereas if I stick it in this real estate investment, now that takes that up to 18.56%. And I can print this out into a nice PDF report to share to my client that has all this information. But let's say that we also talk to them about getting into the real estate game and we take out our property management style. So just doing that now takes us up by a $49 increase. But if you'll notice, it also pushes our 5-year annualized return to over 20%. Now keep in mind, that also has capital expenditure. That also has expenses in there. So there's other costs that are in play as well. It also shows that we will see at a 5-year annualized return somewhere in the range of about 20.32%. Or in this case, you're basically looking at profit if sold about $68,000. So we're getting profit, not regular, but profit of 68%. So we're retaining our money that we got back, on top of that, throwing some additional money in there as well. So guys, this is a great opportunity to kind of just bring yourself top of mind. Now, why is this something that I'm bringing up to you? Why is it something we're talking about today? Because the truth is, if you can provide value to your clients and give them wealth creation, this allows you to create wealth for your clients whilst at the same time giving yourself tons of opportunity, okay? And that is where you kind of find true value in creating clienteles for long periods of time. So this allows you also to have the opportunity that if they decide to get out of that sale in 5 years, right, you have the ability to sell that property for a profit. And using things like 1031 exchanges or moving money into a self-directed IRA, you have the opportunity of creating sellers mixed with buyers, creating wealth creation. So remember, guys, our whole kind of theme the last couple of weeks is that we are trying to create more value out of the client base that we already have. Because guys, right now, I want to tell every real estate agent out there is that it comes down to it that the market will shift, the market will change. It's the question of how can we continue to make money in our current ways that will bring value in future reference, okay? So basically taking the buyers and the sellers that we already have to create their wealth for them, so they in turn will create wealth and more business for you in the future. Guys, I hope this was helpful. We're sitting at about 17 minutes. We try to keep these about 15 minutes long, so thank you for joining. Remember, as always, you can always reach out to me directly, and I will go over these in depth and walk you through that process of creating. Now, keep in mind that today I use BiggerPockets, and this is a paid subscription. So this subscription is going to run you about $49 a month, which is pricey. But remember, there are other ways to use these same tools, just not as robust in other platforms. For instance, right now, RPR has a program called Valuate that does a very similar product line, and it allows you to do that at no cost, or at least at realtor supplied cost, meaning that you pay it in your realtor dues, so therefore you might as well use that as well. I personally like BiggerPockets and I like their tool set, but that does not mean it's going to be perfectly working for you. It just means that you need to get out into the market and figure out how can I create more buyers and more sellers using the client base that I currently have. Guys, thank you for your time. Have a great day, great rest of the week. And remember, as always, I am here to help you grow your real estate business throughout.